Markets function as decentralized global information processing systems. Every transaction provides a data point, and the prices they generate act as transmission vectors. These price messages broadcast the exact scarcity or abundance of a resource. This allows millions of complete strangers to cooperate without a central planner. This entire system relies on the assumption that the price reflects reality. We have to examine what happens when the processor generates a perfectly rational, yet destructive, message. On the Caribbean islands of Martinique and Guadeloupe, plantation owners used a pesticide called chlordicone to protect their crops from the banana weevil. Chlordicone was cheap, legal, and effectively boosted yields. For the plantation owners, the profit-maximizing calculation demanded its heavy and continuous use. The pesticide eventually washed into the rivers and contaminated the coastal mangrove swamps. The destruction of the downstream fisheries was the mathematically predictable result of the market functioning flawlessly on corrupted information. We are going to mathematically map how a rational market produces this suboptimal allocation of resources. This flaw is defined as an external cost. The low price of the pesticide only accounted for its manufacturing and distribution. It completely excluded the financial ruin inflicted on the fishing communities. To fix this systemic failure, economists must calculate the missing data that the market failed to price. Correcting a market failure requires synthetically completing the mathematical information that the price currently lacks. We model the Caribbean banana market on a standard coordinate plane, measuring price against quantity of bananas. The marginal private cost represents the base cost to produce one additional ton. It slopes upward because intensive land use requires more fertilizer and pesticide. The competitive wholesale market price for a ton of bananas is $400. A rational plantation owner will produce bananas until their marginal private cost exactly equals this market price. This private optimization leads to an output of 80,000 tons. Producing 80,000 tons is a perfect private optimization, but it is an economic illusion built on incomplete data. The devastating financial cost of the toxic pesticide runoff is the hidden variable that ultimately ruins this illusion. We define this damage as the marginal external cost, the specific financial loss to the fishery for each additional ton. Added to the private cost, this forms the true marginal social cost. Evaluating the 80,000-ton output against this curve reveals a significant disconnect. At 80,000 tons, society loses money on every banana produced because the total social cost far exceeds the $400 market value. The true Pareto-efficient output level is the point where the market price equals the true social cost. This intersection reveals the efficient quantity, 38,000 tons. The 42,000-ton gap between these two outcomes is the exact mathematical measurement of the market failure. Can the free market self-correct this overproduction internally without a central planner? The Coase theorem suggests that if legal property rights are clearly defined, private bargaining can achieve Pareto efficiency without state intervention. Reducing output to 38,000 tons causes a profit loss for plantations. However, fishermen experience a much larger financial gain from reduced pollution. Subtracting the plantation's loss reveals a net social gain. Fishermen could theoretically pay plantations to produce less, benefiting both. In the real world, transaction costs block this solution. Organizing thousands of individual fishermen to pay thousands of individual farmers is almost always impossible. Coasean bargaining shows an internal market solution is mathematically possible, but real-world friction usually prevents the contract from ever being signed. When transaction costs block private bargaining, public policy must directly correct the price message. This is the role of the Pigouvian tax. It is a levy designed specifically to offset the external cost of the pollution. We calculate the required tax by measuring the marginal external cost at the 38,000-ton Pareto efficient mark. The difference at this point is exactly $105 per ton. Applying this tax drops the effective after-tax revenue received by plantations to $295. Facing this lower price, plantations naturally scale back production to where private cost meets the $295 line, landing perfectly on the 38,000-ton mark. The tax forces the polluter to internalize their external damage. By synthetically altering the price, it aligns their self-interest with the socially efficient outcome. This mathematical disconnect applies far beyond environmental runoff. We see it in the famous used car lemons problem. When the true quality of a car is hidden from the buyer, A problem called adverse selection corrupts the price message and blocks mutually beneficial trades. It also explains why basic scientific research is consistently underfunded. Knowledge is a public good, meaning its social benefit cannot be captured in a private price. These failures, destroyed fisheries, defective cars, and unfunded research all share the same mathematical root: information that the market cannot price. The origin of this failure is the incomplete contract. Contracts require verifiable information. Legally enforceable contracts cannot be written when data is asymmetric or hidden from one of the parties. Without a contract, property rights do not exist. Without property rights, a market cannot form. There is no market for clean river water, so that cost remains external to the plantation's ledger. The ultimate role of public policy in a capitalist system is to step in where information fails and complete these missing markets. Correcting the price message forces the invisible hand to account for the total economic impact of our decisions.